We're going to take Sam on a trip down memory lane. You played 11 games for Tampa Bay in 1983. You know, when I think of you, this is the shirt that I think of.
I think there's nothing more terrifying than losing in the playoff. I felt that Blackburn Rovers was always good enough.
It's nearly 10 years on. Does it get any easier to talk about? How much would a prime Okocha be worth right now?
Oh, he's 100 million, isn't he, not?
Welcome to a special episode of No Tippy Tappy Football, where we're going to take Sam on a trip down memory lane, thanks to our friends at Classic Football Shirts. Now, if you are currently listening to this as a podcast, there is a rail behind us that has on it 12 classic football shirts, all connected to Sam. He either played with them, managed the club, and there's one special surprise at the end as well. So, if you're listening, I will tell you what each shirt is and we'll get Sam's memories, but you might also want to nip onto the YouTube channel so that you can see the shirts as well. I can't wait to get into them. Quickly on kits, when you were a manager, were you involved in the design of the kit? Did you say any? Did you have anything to do?
Well, in the early days, you couldn't pick a kit without me. Honestly.
What did you like?
Well, it depends which club we're at, but after Bolton, it was taken out of my hands whenever I moved from there on. But before that, you know, Blackpool and Preston for a while. But when I got to Bolton, it was about, you know, not just that, but the training kit, all of it. Because I was the manager then, so they put me in charge of all football activity, which I was very, very proud of, that they trusted me with that. And I, you know, I can handsomely say I paid them back tenfold with what we achieved at that particular time. But yeah.
Did you have a favourite shirt that you played in or a team that you managed? Did you have like the shirt that comes in your mind?
Well, it's that first one.
This one?
Yeah, because, you know, that was Umbro at the Wanderers when I finally broke into the team.
Not your size, by the way.
I know. And that was, you know, the one we got promoted in, Blackburn away. Frank Worthington.
1977 to 1981, Bolton away.
Yeah. Frank Worthington scored the winner. And we were guaranteed promotion. And then we played the last game at home against Fulham, I think, won the league. But it took us three seasons to get there, where we kept missing out. There were no playoffs then. So we kept finishing third, and finally we made it. And that this shirt was kept by me, and the white one, and I donated it to the Wanderers when I got to Reebok into the museum. And yeah, great time.
It's an amazing shirt.
Yeah,
it is an amazing shirt. I love it. Okay, right. The next one. This is fascinating. So, Sam, this is the Tampa Bay Rowdies training shirt. It's the best we could do, the best classic football shirts we could do from the 1980s, because you played 11 games for Tampa Bay in 1983.
83, I was in a very, very, very tricky position at Millwall Football Club with George Graham, who'd basically frozen me out. And I'd taken the big dive from Sunderland in League One for the first time in my life to go down to League One now, which is Division 3 at the time, just to get the family back together. Which the owner of Millwall was fabulous with me. He moved all the family down to South London to be at Millwall, but the manager got sacked and George Graham came in, blew me out. So I got a phone call from an agent that says, "Do you fancy Tampa Bay Rowdies?" And I went, "You're kidding me, aren't you?" So it was great to do two things. And the beauty about this was that in the middle of me going to Tampa Bay Rowdies for that summer was Bobby Gould ringing me up just before I went to just become the manager of Coventry City. And actually, Dennis Roach was the agent, actually agreed that I could come back late from Tampa whenever it was, and the season finished, and joined Coventry back in the First Division. So this was a massive change in my career, where George Graham was saying, "You're going nowhere. You'll probably end up in these lower divisions for the rest of your career." And I just decided to cancel my contract at Millwall, flew to Tampa Bay Rowdies. Probably would have stayed, but it folded financially. The league folded at that time, reinvented itself, and then to be what it is now. But went back to Coventry, became captain, and kept Coventry in the division then. So it was a great experience because we could fly the family out in the summer holidays, you know, for the 6 weeks holiday and that, and then they go back. And so that was a bit of a challenge being on your own, but obviously it was a great important time for me. Learned an awful lot about the other side of football in terms of linking up with NFL, the American football players, and or what they did, which had an influence on me in my career later on.
Did you ever
And
consider
of course, the music.
Oh,
The music played as the game went on, the organ. So we were attacking, and the organ would go did
no. While
and as
you
you
were
got nearer to their goal, it would get louder. And if the shot went in, we scored, this massive cannon went off and fireworks off behind the goal. And if it went over the bar, the organ went.
Oh my God. While you were playing?
While we were
Did
playing.
it put you off?
No, you didn't hear it
You
when you
didn't.
were playing, like I mean. But
Have you ever been tempted to go back to America, either as a manager or at the end of your
yeah,
career?
I would have found it in exciting to go back to the stage at one stage. I think that as hard as I tried, they'd sort of started, I think, more using their own coaches more than, you know, they'd done before, or Brits weren't as fashionable as it was before. But I mean, as a player, it was a great experience. But yeah, I'd have loved to have gone back and perhaps managed the American football team.
I never knew that about American you. It's brilliant. Love that. So this is great. Love this training kit. Okay, next up we have, wow. Okay, this is Preston's home shirt, 1992. You went back to Preston for a second spell. The first time round, you got them helped them get promotion from the 4th division. Tell us about this when you went back to Preston.
This is after winning the league at Ireland in Limerick, and got my first coaching job. And the beauty about that was my son was with me. He just joined from school. He just left school, and he'd been at Preston since he was 11, 12. I had to thank Lynn for constantly driving him all the way from Bolton to Preston to do the training all them years. So finally got his apprenticeship, which had nothing to do with me because he was there before I came back. They'd offered him the contract, like you mean. So got the opportunity to as youth team coach to work with him, and played in the reserves with him on occasions, and then got made player caretaker. So I was coach, caretaker, manager, and I decided to come back and play a couple of games to try and stabilise the club, because they were in trouble at the bottom of the league. And my old pal who I'd played with, Les Chapman, who was the manager, unfortunately lost his job because the results weren't going the right way. So I took over, and was really hoping I would get the job, but I didn't. It went to John Beck, and that became very difficult for me and my son, sadly, at that time. But happy memories about Preston as a player on the plastic first, in the first time round with John McGrath, but this time was getting back into, who'd have known how far they'd gone, because I managed to get the Blackpool job. You know, I think it was about 8th choice, me, but I got there in the end, so I could leave Preston behind and take up Blackpool.
And
for the first managerial job.
that is perfectly timed into the next one. So we'll do a quick switch. Definitely not your size now, Sam. I'd struggle on this one myself, because this is Blackpool's shirt, your first official manager's job.
Yes.
And a very impressive 43% win rate for your first job, Sam.
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, we had to apply for re-election, I think, when I took over, which happened in the 4th division then. And so I was coming into my first job. So the experience I had as a manager with Limerick, player manager, and then with Preston as caretaker manager, gave me a little bit about management. So when I got at Blackpool, so this was a tough challenge because we'd got Owen Oyston, big financial guru, long hair, big hat, big character, talking about what he was going to turn Blackpool in, new stadium, big, so yeah, board meetings, Jill Bridge, chief executive, Billy Bingham, director of football. Billy Bingham's wife was a board member. So boardroom meetings then were pretty tough, as well as dealing with the football club. But managed to persuade Owen to buy me Jock Morrison and people like that and spend more. So I got this sort of, found out this sort of undisclosed knack I had to seem to get on with the owners to get them to spend that little bit more money. Unfortunately, in the end, lost in the playoffs. I think we had Cammy here who talked about it, where when he was at Bradford, we won 2-0 away, lost 3-0 at home after extra time, and I lost my job, and Cammy went on from there, like, you know. But I was absolutely thought that we would definitely get promoted the year after, but wasn't given the chance. But that was a great experience for me, both on and off the field, dealing with boardroom, dealing with boardroom meetings and stuff, and giving me an insight onto what I had to be.
Right, that is the Blackpool one. Okay.
Blackpool.
Right, the next one, Sam. I think this is the one. If when I think of you, this is the shirt that I think of, because obviously this is Bolton Wanderers.
This is the 19th of October 1999. I think it was a Tuesday night on my 45th birthday, and I was announced at the Wanderers as the Wanderers manager.
Best birthday present ever?
Yeah, best birthday present ever. We drew 2-2. I'd stood in the middle of the pitch well before the game with nobody there, and good, this is it. I am not going to fail. Just on my own, just absorbing that stadium. This is the one, because it's only a 20,000 all-seater. It's not valued as one of the most, and was one of the most iconic design stadiums in the entire country, if not one of the best. That particular time, and still looks great now. But that was a platform. I didn't realise how big a platform it was to get such stars to come to Bolton Wanderers, because I think that probably only in a small way the Reebok helped. Obviously, what we talked about and what we paid them and how we negotiated was all. But the end of the day, coming to the Reebok was a special place, and we built something that was an absolute brilliant piece of legacy and history for the Wanderers, like, for everybody to do with Bolton, like, so got my 10-year contract. Sadly didn't see it out, but it was the journey as a manager of a lifetime for me.
It was your first time as a manager that you got promotion, obviously, that when you went to Bolton. You'd finished third in the league before that, and then beating West Brom 5-2 on aggregate in the playoff semi-finals. Then you beat David Moyes and his old club Preston in the final to take Bolton into the Premier League. What were the emotions like on that day?
Oh, I think there's nothing more terrifying than losing in the playoff. I'd experienced it the year before. I went to the Wanderers in 1999. Right, at the end of the season, I'd suffered three of the worst blows you could possibly suffer as a manager. We got beat in the semi-final of the Carling Cup. We got beat on penalties at Wembley by Aston Villa in the FA Cup. And we got beat in the second leg by the worst refereeing decision by Barry Knights ever at Ipswich away, to lose and get knocked out, and they go to the playoff final. And I thought, how are we going to recover from this? So a part of the experience and probably my learning curve in the lower divisions was how to be able to loan players. Bolton were in a financial big, deep red hole, 45 million in the red, talking about, bankruptcy if we're not very careful. And me having to manage a team that has got some talent, but also try and get them. So to get to the playoffs and do all those, we had to sell players after, and I wondered how I'm going to do it. Because the players that went were big. I had a good Johnson, Klaus Jensen, Per Franson, Mark Fish. These were big players that the Wanderers had got before I got there. But we managed to overcome that by loaning players from the Premier League to come down into the Championship, and we made our way up into the playoffs and won. So we had an outstanding time, and then of course the survival rate of your second year. We did all that research. Had a great team behind me. One of the most blessed teams I'd ever worked with, and that was why we built this unique program. Insight into every department. I had more staff at the Wanderers than anybody else. And people used to go, "What's he doing with all this staff? Why is he get?" So I don't know why there was so much criticism for it, and everybody does it more now than ever before.
We don't like things that are different.
We put the lot together on the basis of research and what the people in their top jobs were telling me we would improve if we did this. My job was to deal with the board, as I'd done with before, to get the money out of them, to get the okay, to get the tick in the box, because that's not an easy job. But once we got the tick in the box and proved, it was much easier from there on to keep improving and keep evolving the staff. The team behind the team was very important to us, and the team on the pitch evolved, and the staff evolved together.
Well, we're staying on Bolton, but we're going to switch the shirts. So we'll take this one, and we're going to look at this one. I don't remember Bolton, this shirt at all.
Oh, yeah, I do.
This is 2003, and then look at the name on the back.
I know.
That is a Jay Jay Okocha shirt.
He's so good they named him twice. You've probably heard this story before, but it was a double trip to Charles de Gaulle Airport. I probably told that before, where my agent rang me up and said, there's this African player who's the tops. Of course, before that, we'd already got Yuri Yokoyev and people like that. So it wasn't unusual for us to try and continue to do this feed into the football club. And so JJ was happy enough to meet us in Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris just before the World Cup. And it didn't happen then, but it certainly happened at the end of the World Cup, where we'd persuaded him to come again in Charles de Gaulle Airport. And I've said this before, he drove all the way to Bolton the day after to sign for us. He didn't have an agent, which was remarkable. And I think everybody knows the rest. He was just outstanding, and I think that I think probably one of the saddest things, like anybody else, when you've got what you consider probably a world-class player, is when my job is to say it's the end. And that is one of the hardest things you have to do as a manager, like you mean, because they don't, nobody believes it. I didn't when they told me, and I wasn't much of a icon, but when you're talking to somebody with the class of Jay Jay on and off the field and what he brings, but the Premier League, in our opinion, and what the stats were saying, were catching up with him a little bit, you know. So you just hope you part on reasonable company then, and of course that's what had to happen. But what a journey!
How much would a prime Okocha be worth right now?
Oh, he's 100 million, isn't he? Like, see, I've always said this: why did nobody else? What was the reason nobody else took him in the Premier League? What reputation did he have for them to say he's not for us on a free transfer?
What do you think it was?
No idea. Somebody must have thought that perhaps he wouldn't fit into the structure of the team. He did too many of it. Listen, he took instructions better than anybody else. The manager wants to play like this. This is him as a captain. Then we play like this, and we get on with it. You know what I mean? But within that structure it's a bit like anybody else. You've got to allow them talented players to express themselves.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. So you do it, you know, you can express it. And what he did was, you know, so good in terms of what he achieved. And, you know, sometimes I look back on short clips about Jay Jay Okocha at Bolton and I go, wow, when you put them all together, you know what I mean? Some of the runs he made, some of the passes he made, some of the tricks he did, some of the goals he scored, it just makes you, you know, makes you tingle a bit. So there was him and many others.
Yep.
I'm glad to say, but what an era that was.
Right, we're going to jump forward 5 or 6 years from this era. Oh no, what's this one? Hold on, that's another Bolton one. Oh, it's just another Okocha one.
Yeah.
We're celebrating JJ.
He's
2
so
names,
good, they named him twice.
2 shirts. There we go. But we're going to jump forward to...
And of course, I think, what year was that? 2000?
I don't know.
Was that 2004?
Not sure.
3. One the year we got into Europe then. I think that was the year after, wasn't it?
Oh, it's 2003. It's the home and away from 2003. That's
Right.
my fault. I missed them. The home and away from 2003. Both Okocha. Right.
Went into Europe for the first time, which was an achievement. Oh, yes.
Right, we're
the
jumping
Rovers.
forward to the Rovers. It's a Roque Santa Cruz shirt.
Yeah.
It's a 2008, this one, and this is your first year in charge of Blackburn.
Yeah, I'd been interviewed for the Blackburn job well before that. And the chairman of Blackburn Rovers, John Williams, decided to take on another novice in management terms because he'd had Mark Hughes, Mark Hughes had managed Wales, but then came into the Premier League football and did exceptionally well with Blackburn. Mark left for Man City and Paul Ince took over. So I think I got interviewed, but John was going for a Paul Ince, thinking it'd be similar to Mark Hughes. So I didn't get the call till December. Very difficult time to say, can you come and save us? Because obviously, sadly for Paul, it didn't work so well. So I went for an interview and got the job there and then, because I'd already been interviewed a couple of months down the road. So can you start tomorrow? One of those jobs. So I breezed into Blackburn Rovers. Listen to me. Shouldn't be using that term. Went into the Blackburn Rovers and of course cleaned it out to a certain degree. Got Neil McDonald in to come and work with me. There was a few people working there who I already knew. Got Jack Chapman in, who was my big chief scout, my best chief scout ever. The one he was there, and started looking at the team and looking at the front end staff, and moving 1 or 2 staff on and moving 1 or 2 players on pretty quickly that I didn't think were pulling the weight. That makes the biggest impression at the start because it says, don't mess with me. which is a tough old decision because you got to make those decisions pretty quick. So then it brings a little bit of. I felt that Blackburn Rovers was always good enough. I mean, it wasn't the season before with Mark Hughes. They'd done really, really well. So it all fell apart after that. The sad thing for us, Rocky Santa Cruz and Benny McCarthy weren't living up to the past reputation. Rocky with injuries, Benny wasn't quite keeping himself or looking after himself as much as he would have liked. Two great goal scorers who brought great success to Blackburn. So it was a tough job getting enough goals, but we eventually got a couple of players in, Jufy, and I can't remember. We got a centre half from France. No, can't quite remember. But we got two guys. We got David Dunn. We got Chris Samba. We got Ryan Nelson. Phil Jones were coming through. We had a good team.
Yeah.
We didn't have quite as much strength and depth, but we had a good team. Keith Andrews, people like that. So, if I missed anybody out, Stephen Warnock, you know what I mean? So Paul in goal, Paul Robinson, England goalkeeper.
Wow.
So played Chris Samba up front in the end when we struggled just to avoid relegation.
Us, yeah.
So it was a great year. Sadly, this didn't last as long as like Newcastle. Didn't happen as quick as Newcastle, but happened in the end.
Yeah.
When the club got taken over, I got shoved out the door, like you mean. So a bit like Newcastle, they never quite. In fact, Newcastle got relegated after I left, and so did Blackburn Rovers. So there you go.
Okay, so that was Blackburn.
So that was Blackburn.
Thank you very much. Right.
Didn't want to leave, but got sacked.
On to the next one. So Sunderland. I don't even need to look to know what name is on the back of that. Of course, that it says Jermaine Defoe. Just double check there.
My son, you mean? My son.
Your son.
I didn't know he was my son till later on till after I'd left. Like you mean? Go and have a word with go and have a word with your dad.
So this is 15-16. Obviously, keeping Sunderland in the Premier League, will that always be one of your biggest achievements?
So I was in my villa relaxing in my villa in Spain, and Mark Curtis, my agent, rang me and says, "You got to fly back over here and meet Ellis Short." You know what I mean? So I'd looked at, Steve Bruce had been there. Bruce had been there, and they were changing managers quite regularly. So I thought, well, I'll go and have a chat, because if you a club like that, and I'd played for Sunderland, you know what I mean? So I thought it's too big a club not to have a chat with, like you mean. And they'd escaped relegation two or three times on the trot. So I knew it was going to be difficult. So met Ellis, and we were frank. Ellis liked straight talking. So I didn't know that at the time, but he's just come straight out with a fact about what he felt he'd done right, what he'd done wrong, and I sort of said, like, look, I'll come and do my best, but I need your, like I've said before, I need your help in January window. We'll definitely lead a couple of players, which ended up being 4, which started to make a difference because the quality of those players made a difference, and the players that were already there. And of course, we had this little man who scored 18 goals in a struggling side, who everybody told me when I got there couldn't play up front on his own. And I asked him why, and he said, well, I've never said that to anybody. I've got no problem with that. So my style of play changed, as it always does. We'd got Jermaine up front on his own, 5'8". So we knew we weren't playing off him. We knew we were only playing down the side, because he loved the channel ball. He loved to bend his run into the channel, and then he loved to get in the box, and that was it. Simple. I love simple football. It's the best football ever. So we worked our way down into the wide men, switching play diagonally and getting balls into the box. And this man scored 18. I sorted defence out. Talked about clean sheets like I always do, about how important it is when we get back into our shape. If one goes, we all go when we're pressing. If 2, 3 flag behind it, they'll get through. So I constantly hammered that side of it because I always knew there was a goal, and that goal was going to win us more 3 points and kept us in the league. So I think the last week, Chelsea at home, 2-1. Or was it 3-2? I can't remember now, sadly. Jermaine Defoe must have been 3-2, I'm sure, but I don't know, can't remember. Wabi Nazri scored a brilliant goal. Jermaine Defoe scored 2, I think it was 3-2. And then we beat Everton in midweek on the Wednesday, 3-0. That was us safe going to the last game, which is down at Watford, which we drew 2-2. So it shows you what an effort it was, because I think we only finished 4th from bottom or 5th from bottom. So even though we had that run, it was just a great moment for me that Sunderland fans, on that last home game of the season, which was Everton, we won 3-0, and about the fact that we were safe feels like if you won the league.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
The relief's that big, like you mean. So yeah, Sunderland, good trip.
Sunderland,
Well appreciated by the fans,
yes.
And not only as a player but also as a manager. Right,
that one. Okay, the next one.
Yeah.
Got
short and sweet. Not sweet in the end. Very bitter. This is Wayne Rooney's shirt.
2016 England shirt from the game that you managed against Slovakia, the 1-0 win, 100%
Slovakia
record.
away. Me and Sammy Lee, and then the rest of the staff had moved lock, stock and barrel to St George's Park for the first time ever. In fact, the whole kit and caboodle was supposed to. If you wouldn't move from Wembley to there, you wouldn't have kept your job, which I thought was, on the research and insight that the England team had done, was a great idea. Even though it can deem to be a little boring, St George's Park, a little bland, if you like. I sort of felt it was, instead of the home of English football, was the part-time area for English football. So we were trying to make it a full-time, which I fully went along with. So me and Sammy's first job was to turn it into something different, because there was this place that they came and just went on the top floor of the hotel, the 4th floor, and stayed there. So we planned that out, to the rooms we had and the areas we had, to build it into. And I was very visual with a lot of stuff that we. And the beauty about living in England was the time we could plan. So we got tech in to look at the pictures we could put up, put a big screen up, so when they came in, it would be this many days and hours before the next World Cup, because that's what we were playing for, who we were going to play, so on. And so we tried to evolve, so when they came, it was different. The only problem was there were still people in the hotel, so we got the okay that would change, because you can't bring an England squad to the Hilton Hotel, which had been happening for years, by the way, and allow ordinary people to be wandering around the hotel with your England squad and England players at the same hotel. So they're just going to stay on floor 4 and get cabin fever. But in the end, just one game, one win, and 100% record.
It's nearly 10 years on. Does it get any easier to talk about?
Try not to. It flashes across my mind now and again, especially when the international weeks are on. But unfortunately, never worked out, sadly.
That one's got Rooney on the back. He's got to be up there, one of the best players you've ever.
Yeah, I mean,
worked with.
not only here, but later on at Everton. I mean, there was so much in my first England about Rooney being finished. It was constant, never ending. You know what I mean? We even listen. I always remember saying to Sammy Lee when we're away, Slovakia, there's a few minutes to go, and said we were going to get slaughtered. You know what I mean? Because there was some that were pro Allardyce, and then there was some that was not pro Allardyce that you always have to live with. And I was thinking, wow, anyway, we won. But there was a lot of pointing out in the press that it was negative, that we weren't, but we were totally in control. We would created chance after chance, entries into the box, so on and so forth, which I was going to bring out on the stats, later on. But obviously the biggest regret was not having the game at Wembley, or not carrying on for a World Cup and so on and so forth.
Right, so that was England. Let's pop Rooney.
But I got that Rooney shirt.
Oh yeah.
In that game, yeah.
Okay. Oh, the actual match worn
one.
one.
Yeah, I got that one. Yeah.
Right, this is Leeds, and of course, this is your
Leeds. They might have said this before when I got it in the top of the time. This was should have been 12 or 14 games if the director of football would have been big enough to pit an Englishman to come and do the job. And I'm not sure whether he was Spanish or but certainly the manager they brought in was Spanish, like me. But eventually they turned around to me with only 4 games to go, and they did get rid of that director of football. So I always think that with more time I would have kept the Premier League status, but I can't thank the help and the support I got in just that 4 games from not only the staff but also the fans. They were, they tried, they were behind us, and I was so disappointed that certainly the Tottenham game, because we'd seen such an upturn, even though it was only a loss at Man City 2-1, and then it was, we really threw it away, Newcastle at home, and then West Ham had an opportunity, got in front, but the Tottenham game was a real disappointment in the end, and so I'll always think that why didn't I stay? Well, I wasn't staying at that time because I was just thinking about, was the club change hands? Was I going to be left with a case of the new owners come in and just get rid of me? And I'd had that happen at Newcastle. I had it happen at Blackburn Rovers, and I really didn't want that to happen again. Like, so I don't know whether they would have stayed me or they wouldn't, but I thought, well, new owners, clean break, San Francisco 49ers. But yeah, fantastic club.
Fantastic, and we'll probably see them in the Premier League.
Probably, yeah.
Next season again. Okay, now the last one is not a shirt. Of course, you have not been the Spain manager and you didn't play for Spain, but this is a special shirt that we wanted to do because this is, I'll turn it around for you. It will all make sense now. Fernando Hierro's shirt. Of course, take that, Sam. How good was he?
Well, probably some people might think like when Sam keep talking about this like going on all the time, but if people ask, I'll talk about it because it was such a brilliant time, brilliant time for me. And this was one. This wasn't just one. This was one of many that we had. You know, this could be a Yuri Yokoya shirt.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It could be a Vincent Candela that everybody forgets about. Who was a World Cup winner, a Euro winner with Yuri, who came to Bolton on loan for a season. You know, so you know that Nicholas Anelka could have, you know, this shirt. Stelios Yanakopoulos could have. You know, so this one particularly was. It's the agent that we worked with was brilliant to getting players from Spain over here. Got Campo, who was outstanding. Ivan Campo from Real Madrid, which was the same as Fernando. But Fernando Hierro was, he actually came from Qatar, but his demand wasn't financial. His demand was education for his son and his son's mate in a private school. And if you did that, you clinched it. I mean, this wasn't even a problem for us, because Sue Whittle, my player liaison officer, had the best connections in Bolton, like you can't believe, and football and the town connections, and particularly what we're doing are just, we're bringing so much to the town. It was everybody wanted to help, so we got his son and his mate into Bolton School, so they could learn English and be educated for the year. It started not too well, because it's a bit like Ivan Campo. They're both centre halves at Real Madrid, and as a centre half in the Premier League, they weren't quite quick enough. But the talent that they had moving them into that sitting role in centre midfield, the anchor, the Rodri role at Man City, they were just outstanding. And this guy, 6'3", 6'2", you know, he intercepted. Nobody knows this, because I've gone about what he really was great at as well. But his interceptions on reading the game, so balls into the opposition strikers were cut out by him intercepting in front of them more than anybody else I'd ever seen. And this came from our stats lads. And this is it. So we won more. So our possession started attacks far more often from midfield than it did from lads at the back. So you're basically taking the pressure off the defenders as well. But he's passing. You know, we used to train on the Reebok often before a home game, and I just used to stand behind them and say, right, we're doing a bit of attacking now, and they go, everybody, you work to get him the ball facing the opposition's goal, and that was it. And watch him go, boom, 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 boom. So he was just outstanding. I couldn't persuade him to stay. Was the sad thing for another year. And he got a standing ovation. Everton at home. I think we won the game, even though we were down to 10 men. But we brought him off with 5 minutes to go, because we announced that he unfortunately wasn't going to stay for us. And he got a standing ovation, which was absolutely fantastic.
Right, my last question for you. Let's pop this one back. Of all the shirts that we have looked back on today, the ones that are here on this rail, what's your favourite?
Well, it's got to be the Wanderers shirts, both as a player and as a manager.
Let's go for that classic one.
Yeah, because when you're 15 and you're dreaming about being a footballer, from how far can you back dreaming about? But probably 9. You know what I mean? Playing football for the school team and developing, people recognising even at 9 that you must be all right, like you mean, and you get in the town team at 11, 12, 13, 14. And then you finally get your break. Or I got my break at the Wanderers, 15, apprenticeship. Struggled, overcame those struggles, met my wife when 16, and we're still together now. So that, still live in Bolton. So played for them, got them into the first division, left, came back, got them back in the Premier League and stayed there. Got into Europe, got to a cup final, and could have done an awful lot more, but I won't go into that again because that is you know, the biggest and longest period of my career at the Wanderers, and great affection for them.
Well, thank you. I love that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
well, whoever thought that one up, well done. And of course, even better getting these shirts.
Classic football
Classic
shirts.
football shirts, yeah.
Incredible. Thank you to our friends there for giving us those. Thank you for the trip down memory lane, Sam.
Thanks again, Nat.
Thank you very much for joining us on this special episode of No Tippy Tappy Football.